Welcome to another episode of the Online Prosperity Experience podcast. You're about to hear your host, Prosper Taravinga's powerful digital marketing strategies and actionable tactics that you can use right now. Prosper has helped more than 50,000 people from over 10 countries to create meaningful businesses that are profitable and enjoyable. Listen to this podcast so that you too can build your own business with less stress and overwhelm. Let's get started.
5 smart tips to avoid starving and being a stressed business owner. You know, running a business as a coach or consultant is awesome, but it can actually present with it some problems in the area of finances if you're not prepared. And in this podcast today, we're going to be talking about how to bust out of the starving and stressed business owner cycle. A lot of us working hard to grow our businesses. And I know growing your own business is tough. You know, you're cold calling clients and you're having them maybe hang up in your face, and maybe today or this week you've sent hundreds of emails without getting as much as, hey, thank you so much for reaching out. And you obviously may be wasting thousands of dollars maybe on ad spend and on other freelancers without getting any qualified leads at all. And sometimes it may feel like no one wants to buy whatever you're selling. And when you do rely on your business to pay rent and put food on the table, then it can put an enormous strain on your emotions, and you're terrified of having to give up on your dreams and maybe do the worst nightmare that a lot of coaches and consultants have, which is to return to a safe 9-to-5 job with your tail tucked between your legs if you can't bring in new clients. Now, like I mentioned, being a coach or consultant is a funny kind of game. You know, when business is going well, you can find yourself making a lot of money and, you know, going out to events and showcasing out there more than you've ever done in your life, or your friends or people you went to school with. And the thrill is amazing. Don't get me wrong. You know, look at everyone else that you know or you knew prior to the pandemic, how, you know, they had fancy cars, fancy watches, everything else. That's the epitome of success in our industry. But when things aren't going as well, you might find yourself starting to empty maybe a bank account and wondering where the hell all the money went. And you start feeling that rising panic in the pit of your stomach. If you've ever been in that situation, or maybe you might be in it right now, let me tell you something. You definitely are not alone. All right. The reason why that is because schools don't teach effective money management. They'd rather talk about sex. You know, there's sex ed at schools, but when are you ever taught about taxes? When are you ever taught about debentures? When are you ever taught about investments and portfolios and all that stuff that makes the real money? Because yes, we do have all this earned income, but do we have a portfolio which makes money while we sleep? Do we have any assets that we've created? Because income follows assets. Schools don't teach us any of this stuff. And they certainly don't teach it for coaches and consultants, arguably the people who need these skills the most. You know, I mean, it's often worse, especially if you're maybe like my age, around 35 years and up. Our parents never spoke about money or how to manage it properly because they clearly didn't know how to either. And we learned, and if we learned anything from them, it was only, thanks to like really keen observations. And if we had any of those observations, man, my parents used to be bothered about money all the time. You know what I mean? And it was all about paying bills, our life is hard and everything else. And then I just grew up thinking money is the worst. I mastered my money management skills the hard way. And today I'd like to share just a little bit about what I know that could help bring back the power back in your hands. Now let me tell you, I was born in Africa, right? And the reason why I'm really passionate about helping coaches and consultants is when when I was growing up, life was pretty tough. We didn't have a lot of money and we didn't have a lot of hope, that we would amount to anything. And we didn't have anyone to look up to. So we didn't even have any role models. Even if we had brothers or siblings that were older, they would just probably go and live in another city and we wouldn't even see their day to day. We'd only just see them maybe on designated dates where they just show up, giving us only their best side and their best financial muscle for just that couple of days, and then they go back to whatever suffering they're going through. We didn't have social media for us to keep track on what was actually happening to all of those people. And as soon as I landed in Australia, I ran a lot of bills trying to, I wrecked a lot of bills, trying to survive or live up to the standards that I thought life was. And I even got evicted from my apartment in Richmond. And it was one of my lowest points. But then I never gave up. All right. I knew that there had to be a way. And one day, if you do have an opportunity to see any photos of me or meet me in person in my office, you would notice the wealth of knowledge and books that is behind me, that I've started to educate myself on finances, on being a good dad, on nutrition, everything else that we are never taught. So it's not your fault if you find yourself going in ebbs and flows and not being able to manage your money. It's not your fault. We were never taught this in school. I just want you to get past, get through and forever avoid going broke, or at least go on that feast or famine financial cycle that a lot of coaches and consultants are really familiar with. The reason why I speak like this is because every time I meet up with a coach who's got a really good message, who's identified their market, and we're like, okay, let's put this word out there. They're like, yeah, money is a bit of a tight problem right now. And I'm like, wait a minute, how are you not making money and you're in Australia? Because a lot of people always think that the whole coach famine means that incoming money dries up or becomes hard to come by. They've started surrendering to money in and of itself. And I mean, obviously, that to a degree is true, but it's usually that isn't the real cause of financial hardship. One thing that I've noticed with a lot of people is they're not tracking where they are right now. Not a lot of people are living within their means, or they're acting their wage. All right. As soon as they get money, they want to get the most expensive microphone. They want to get the most expensive social media photos. They just want to showcase to other people now that things are working well. But what really often happens is that, coaches and consultants, they spend a lot of money without having a sense of their current financial situation. They don't know what they need each month. They don't know what's coming in. They don't even know what's going out. And when a cash flow hiccup comes, what we just went through, the 2 years of COVID, these coaches and consultants are caught with their pants down. And it's not a pretty sight, because some of them have gained COVID gains, so it's not fun to watch. But, some say that the solution is to maybe tighten your belt so you don't get caught with your pants down. But you can accomplish a lot more by wearing that that metaphorical belt from day one, before those pants hit the floor. So you want to start by tracking where you are right now. Even in business, how are you going to know how to double your leads? How are you going to know, how to, double your revenue or increase whatever activity if you don't know where you are right now? Even as coaches and consultants, when we are consulting with our audience or our clients, we want to know where they are so that we can show them what is possible and where they can take themselves to. Why aren't we doing that with our own finances? So you want to start by tracking where you are right now. What do you have in your accounts? What do you owe? What's going out? What's going in? What are you investing? What's a recurring income? Expenditure. What's coming in later? And when do you need to pay bigger bills or yearly fees? There's insurances or your car registration or your home insurance, all of those things. Do you even know when the dates are? Or have you got a plan to make sure that when those bills come in, it doesn't mean we don't see you for a couple of days because you need to figure it out? Because that knowledge in and of itself, it sweeps away whatever uncertainty that gives you a little bit of confidence. I don't know about you, but have you ever sat down with a financial planner or mortgage broker and they were telling you, or maybe you wanted to get a loan or a mortgage for a house, and you start looking at where your finances are and how much you made last year and all that stuff and how much is coming in and how much you can borrow? Haven't you ever felt that? Wow, I've had that happen to me twice now in my entire life, and it's a very liberating experience just knowing where you are. And I'm going to extend that a little bit for those that spiritual, that when you discover who you are at the core, that's a liberating experience, because you now start having confidence knowing that you're connected to who you are. You're connected to your metaphorical wallet. And when you know where you are right now, you know what's coming up, you know what to expect. You no longer just operate from a reactionary point of view. You now are deliberate and intentional with your life. And that helps you to the way you approach life, the way you communicate with your clients. Have you ever noticed that sometimes when you're broke, you're very snappy to your kids, to your wife, to your clients, and people might just think, well, wait a minute, maybe this person doesn't like me. And you know what they'll do? They'll take their business elsewhere. And you get back again to that famine zone that you were in the first place. I mean, life is still going to throw us a few surprises here and there, and I just call them tests of resilience. I mean, the last couple of years were just, whoa. High five to each and every one of us that survived that. Wow, I don't know what that was. But when you begin tracking your current numbers, you'll be surprised how the frequency of those surprises start going down, because you know what to expect and you know your needs before you want them. So instead of just tracking where you are, you want to also start tracking where your money is actually going. We had a really big realization when I had to cut down on staff and also cut down on our expenses when COVID hit. I noticed that we were paying close to $2,500 in softwares alone. And to be frank, when we cut off all of those softwares one by one, I actually have been, tracking behind the scenes just to see if we needed any of the stuff that we were paying before. And it looks like we don't. So right now, do you even know which app is taking $1 here, $3 there, $20 there, or a subscription that you joined and then maybe you no longer need it? I'm guilty. I've got a whiskey subscription that I'm yet to cancel because they've got good copy and they reel me in every month, every time I want to cancel it. Now, I don't even know where to put the next whiskey that's going to come from that. But you need to start tracking where your money is going. Being a coach or consultant, we're smart people, and that's why we get the jobs that we have. We command the rates that we do. We command the authority that we do. But even smart people make poor decisions, and half of the time they regret them later. Especially when you're not paying attention to your expenditure, because each month, an Apple bill there and $2 there from an app that you no longer use. Cocomelon is playing in the background. Is that paid for, or is that a free version? You need to check all of those things. We're paying attention to data that doesn't matter. How many people like me? How many people have shared my post? But we're not paying attention to the data that could save us. The data is where you currently spend your money right now, untracked and unnoticed. A lot of bills are flying out of your bank account and your wallet like Superman, faster than the speed of light. Before you can even say, I'm a consultant and there's $1 that's just gone out. Because every purchase you make is driven by how you feel at the moment. Sometimes you might be excited about a certain, mastermind or whatever, just because you want to know how to tweet or be on LinkedIn. And then when you then realize, this was all a waste of money, sometimes we forget to cancel some subscriptions. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And a few people want to live their life, by, just having options. And there's a few people also that want to live a life of, strict rules and a budget. And some people just want to be flexible with their budgets as well. You choose what you want, but you find yourself in a much stronger financial position when you're aware of where your money is going and you're spending data. If you notice also one thing, phone plans are getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and data is getting more and more and more and more and more. Okay, so one place to check is, are you still paying hundreds of dollars for maybe minuscule data on your phone just because you're hanging onto a plan that you haven't checked if it's still viable for your needs? Right now, I kid you not, I think I'm paying $33 with AmaSim, and this is not a plug on their part anyway, but I'm getting about 60 gigabytes of data, which accrues, each month. So just keep track of where you're spending your money. I mean, I actually suggest even on a daily transaction by transaction basis, so that you can see how it all adds up and, whether you're happy with how it's working out or not. Take 1 month to just really fine comb every transaction that you're doing and notice that sometimes some of these transactions are not needed. And when you have the data, you'll be able to make some adjustments here and there, on how you want to spend your money and what you want to spend it on. Because these days, they get you, man. You've got Netflix, you've got Stan, you've got Disney, you've got any other subscription TV channel. That's just your TV. All right. And then from there, you've got radio that you subscribe to, Spotify, Amazon, whatever. That's just your listening pleasure. And then you've got your website. There's all these plugins that are just sucking money out. You'll be a lot happier and have more of what you want if you just start checking and doing the Marie Kondo method, when your credit card statement comes in, Speaking of which, I don't support credit cards anyway, but that's your choice. And by the way, when you track your spending, make sure you're clear about the money that leaves your hand. So if you just, put in your CRM or in your Zero cash management or accounting tool, Cash ATM 50, that doesn't tell you whether you spend the money on books, on clothes, on coffee, or on plumbing, or, or on a networking event, that you'd want to know down the road, because that you want to give yourself enough information to make decisions later on. All right. So this then leads us to say, you want to make short-term financial goals and actually write them down and follow them through. Remember what I mentioned earlier about unchecked decision-making that is being, that is happening here, just simply based on the emotions of how you feel at the moment. I mean, that state particularly affects a lot of coaches and consultants, because maybe you would have gone through an awakening, and then that awakening needed you to spend money in certain areas, but you don't need it anymore. Because we work in a rapid fire environment, and we've got all these carefree lifestyles that almost lead to hasty spending. You might just hear of this organic clothes shop that just opened, and then you might leave things in the cart, and then they start taking money out of your account. I don't know how it works. The upside of being a coach or consultant is that you be often, be in a position to have a chance to spend money on a lot of fun things and experiences. You meet a lot of people, you go to networking events, and you get introduced to much more fun activities just simply based on who you are. But the downside of all of this is that, you can lock yourself into an experience of not having what you really want as a person. You know why? Because we're always trying to network with other people and figure out ourselves in the process. There's softwares, there's tools, there's all of these things. Maybe it's a new high-end laptop, or maybe it's $2,000 in savings. Maybe it's a trip to a conference or to Bali for a retreat. All of those things, that you wish you had money for, but you don't. It's usually a big problem for all of us. You may actually have more money than you think. Just look at your expenditure and start tracking all of those expenses. Because if you set your short-term financial goals and you put them in writing, and then you start creating a psychological anchor that becomes, that actually begins affecting your future decision-making, because you stop spending impulsively. Impulse buying is the detriment of a lot of us. That whole "would you like fries with that?" That's happening on all the checkouts, especially e-commerce and everything else. It's just, a pain in our budget. You need to have a lot more control in your life if you actually want to have a happier existence and a business that's profitable and enjoyable. Just think about it. The simple act of you writing down new laptop, $1,500, and then you stick it somewhere where you can see it all the time, you know that you will actually go and buy that when the money comes in, instead of you just buying whatever pop-up that comes on your website. And you're likely to decide to set aside some of your time and effort to actually go and reach for that goal, instead of just spending your money on things that you don't realize that you're spending money on. And that's why you need to check your patterns. What needs changing? I think it was Tony Robbins, or is it an NLP principle that says you got to break some patterns? Because everyone has a unique spending and, saving pattern. It's developed through a number of different influences, and it evolves over time. Like I was talking about my parents earlier on. Maybe you watched your parents saving money or things like that. How your parents spend their money, or what your friends and peers are doing with their cash. Even maybe your opinions and beliefs on what's okay to spend on, etc. These are all examples of influences that have created your money philosophy. How do you money? How do you save? How do you invest? Do you do that whole save 10% of all the income that you earn, or do you save 20%, or do you even do any of that stuff? So some of the psychology that you have in your head, that whole money doesn't grow on trees, it might not be helpful to you. It definitely might not be. What's your money mindset? And until you examine your spending and saving patterns, you're not even going to know what needs changing. Because every part of your money psychology has a reason behind it. You might have been going through a tough time in your life, and then you realize, oh no, whatever happens in life, I'm never going to be found without $100 in my wallet. I used to do this in my car. There's a time when I was struggling, and I made sure that whenever I got money, I would fold a $20 note and then put it in the sun visor there, just in case one day I don't have money and I needed petrol. So there's a psychological reason behind most things that you do. Just take a look at your spending and saving habits. How do you spend? When do you spend? And what do you spend on? How do you save? When do you save? And what do you save for? Think about why too. Why do you spend and why do you save? Because as you think about these questions, and your answers, just ask yourself if your spending and saving habits are actually serving your goals and or are they getting in the way and getting you what you want? If they are serving your goals, pat yourself in the back. There you go. I'm giving you a bit of an ovation. But if they're getting in the way, consider what needs to be done in order for you to change it. We are in the transformation business. Why don't you start with you? Why don't you start with your money mindset? Just so that, because if your money is good, your health is good. If your money is good, your mindset is good. If your money is good, your relationships are good. Maybe you need to start there. And once you've figured out what it is, stay with it. Find a way to stick to it. What works, stick with it. Because becoming financially smart and properly managing your money only works when you strive to make it a habit. There's always going to be a nice thing around the corner. There's always going to be an economic downturn. Stick to your pattern. Stick to what you think works perfectly for you. And you want to make enough of all of those activities into a habit. Like right now, no matter what happens, I feel physically ill whenever I get some money and I don't put 10% away, in my investments. Because at a point in my life, I always knew if only I had saved this money, I would be in a better position. Now I put away 10% of my money before anything. I text myself before the government texts me. And it's now become a habit. And once you start having processes that you follow, you start respecting yourself a whole lot more. You start respecting what you do to earn that money, and you do more of it. You see how all of these things are connected. So that's why it's such a good idea to think about your own patterns and how you build habits around them in other areas of your life, your physical, your mental, your spiritual, everything. Because it's like a stool. If one leg is a little bit short, it makes the whole chair wonky. So if your financial leg is a little bit short and maybe you are, very healthy, obviously, because you're a yoga instructor or whatever you do these days, you are actually doing yourself a disservice. You want to create these habits in all the other areas in your life and then pick an approach that actually works for you. Because if it works for you, you will keep it. So maybe if you're not able to do it by yourself, because there's a lot of money mindsets around coaches, oh yeah, money's not everything. It's not about the money. I just want to help people. Okay, how are you paying your bills? If you can't do it yourself, maybe getting accountability through a friend or a spouse or whoever is around you might actually help you to stick to a plan and create that habit for yourself. Maybe you've got routines that you like to do every day. Just bring other people in so that you don't then negate or go back on your word on that. Maybe you like to keep lists. Only you know what works best for you. And you just need to pick a way that works for you. Just put some of these simple habit changes in place and you can start enjoying more of the feast and less of the famine that comes along with running a business. Like I said earlier on, running a business is awesome. We just complicate things as human beings. I can acknowledge it does present some problems, especially in the area of personal finances, if you're not prepared for it. We're not taught any of this stuff at schools. But the great thing about owning a business is that you get to set your own rules. You get to set your own schedule. You can work from home and you have the autonomy to make your career decisions. You work with whoever you want to work with. You can do whatever you want, whenever you want, with whomever you want. However, if you don't have your finances under control, running your business full-time can actually wreak havoc to yourself and everybody else around you. So start creating your own freedom today. That way, you no longer have to be a starving and stressed business owner. I can't wait to congratulate you on the other side there while you have a business that's profitable and enjoyable. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, let's continue the conversation in the Live Long Digital community. Become a Live Long Digital community member today. This community is for ambitious entrepreneurs and small business owners with the drive to take control of the future of their businesses and achieve huge success without stress and overwhelm. As you heard, Prosper can help you by teaching you marketing strategies that work. So look no further than the Live Long Digital community of entrepreneurs and highly successful business owners. Join our community today. Find us on www.community.livelongdigital.com.au. Network with other driven entrepreneurs and find the expert guidance you need to take your business to the next level. www.community.livelongdigital.com.au